my kitchen. It's Louie and Pygott, and I am making some Sunday goodies for dinner today. So I'm actually going to make my main course tomorrow morning because it's a pasta and it will be better tomorrow morning. I'm going to make tortellini. Those are already frozen, already ready. You just got to boil them. Cheese-filled tortellini and a rosé sauce. The rosé sauce is a marinara sauce with some cream added, and it's going to be so good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in the morning. But today I'm going to make a couple of things to go with it. One thing I'm going to go make to go with it. Now these are all things I have not made before, so I'm so excited. That's new stuff. I'm going to make some marinated cucumbers. It's basically like cucumbers with a vinaigrette on it. I've never done it before, but like I said, it's going to be my first time. And then I'm making a brand new cake and icing recipe. I've never even made this cake or this icing, and it is a homemade vanilla cake, basically white yellow cake. It's going to be kind of halfway. It's got both eggs, some egg yolks and egg whites, so it's going to be halfway between yellow and white, homemade. But I'm really excited about it because it has both butter and oil. And usually, if you use, hi, how you doing? If you use just butter in a cake, it's really good and buttery, but it usually makes a really dry cake if you're making homemade. And if you use oil, then it has a whole lot more moisture. But I really like this recipe. I've never tried it, but I really like this recipe because it has both the butter and the oil. So you're going to get the yummy butter taste, and you're going to have the moisture from the oil. So I have already beat the butter. I'm using half a cup of butter. Now I'm only making half the recipe because it's for me and mom, and me and mom with me on a diet aren't eating an entire cake. We're not. So I'm making a one layer. I'm making half the cake, and I'm going to use the square glass. So instead of the 9 by 13, it's an 8 by 8. So I'm making half the recipe. But you can of course make the whole recipe. So this is half the recipe. It calls for a half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick. I always use real butter to bake. And it calls for half of a third a cup. Okay, so the original recipe has a third a cup of oil. Do you know how to get half of a third a cup? It's not easy, is it? Okay, well, I have a third a cup measuring cup that actually has it marked where halfway is. But if you don't have that, a third a cup is 16 teaspoons. So to get half of that, 8 teaspoons. 8 teaspoons is half of a third a cup, if you didn't know that. Did you know that recipes are math? Did you know I hated math till I realized I need it for recipes? I can do it real well with food. So 8 teaspoons is a half of a third a cup of oil. So I've got that, and then 1 3/8 cup, or half a cup. It's a half a cup. It's actually 3/4 of a cup plus an 1/8 a cup, which is half the amount. Maybe let's just give you the whole recipe. 1 cup of butter, a third a cup of oil, and 1 3/4 cups of sugar. Then it said beat it for 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, well, I wasn't going to stand here and let you listen to that noise for 5 to 7 minutes. So I've already beat the butter and the oil and the sugar. And let me flip this around, and I'm going to let you see what we have here. And that just did nothing. Come on. Come on. I've got something in the way. It's not letting me flip. There we go. Okay. So now let me move. Let me move this over here. I got to move my plug too. Okay, so here we go. This is the butter and the oil and the sugar that has been beat for 7 minutes. There you go. Then we're going to add our other ingredients. Okay, so you're going to need 3 whole eggs. Room temperature. I've already got it at room temperature. Now remember, I'm only doing half. So that's going to be, I'm going to do 1 whole egg, cracking it in a dish to make sure I don't get shell and that the egg is good. Okay, so there's 1 whole egg. Then I'm going to beat that for a minute. Does it tell me to do that? Yes. Add eggs, then egg whites one at a time, beating in between. Okay, so here we're going to beat that for a minute. It's good to do room temperature things. That way your cold eggs and cold milk don't seize your butter back up. It leaves your butter soft. You don't have to do it room temperature, but it is better. Basically, I need 1.5 whole eggs and 1.5 egg whites for, is that right? Yeah. That is right. Now let's turn that down. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in the whole egg white. I'm just going to put in another whole egg rather than try to figure out half and half. It'll be perfectly fine with another whole egg. Okay, so then there's my last whole egg. So I basically have 2 whole eggs and 1 egg white. So, but you're going to do 3 egg whites and 3 whole eggs for the whole recipe. And mix that up. Then we're going to add vanilla, and we're going to do, it asks for a tablespoon of vanilla. That's a lot of vanilla. Okay. I'm going to do half of that, of course, since it's half recipe. So add your tablespoon of vanilla. Half of a tablespoon is a teaspoon and a half, by the way. Beat that in. Okay, there we go. Now let's see what we have next. In another bowl, we're going to do the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Okay, flour. You need 3 cups of cake flour. Now I don't always get recipes that call for cake flour, but this does. So this is cake flour right here. Swan's down cake flour. So if it calls for cake flour, I like to use cake flour. So let me get that. Let me get another bowl here. There we go. Okay, so let's put in 3 cups of cake flour. There we go. A little bit more. Find my other measuring thing here. Here we go. Guess I could. Let me do this. This out of the way. There we go. Whoa! That's tilting on me. Sorry about that. Don't fall. There you go. There you can see my bowl of flour. Okay. Okay. Now, for the whole recipe, that would be 3 cups. I'm doing half of that. All right. Then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder for the whole recipe. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 for half. I like the baking powder says aluminum free. That's a Rumsford. Okay, and then you would need a teaspoon of salt, of which I'm going to do half of that. So I got my salt here somewhere. I'm hiding it for myself. Here it is. Let me get rid of this napkin with the egg on it. It's gooey. That's a lot of salt, too, for a cake. All right, here we go. Straining it because I have rice in my salt so it doesn't get wet. Okay, so then you're going to whisk those together. So let me get a little whisk. This does have some lumps in it, I see. So let's try to get rid of the lumps. Okay, then it says you're going to add this to the cream mixture, alternate with buttermilk, beating well after each addition. Okay, so then I'm going to, I have the buttermilk, it calls for a cup of buttermilk, room temperature, so I've had the buttermilk sitting out. So I'm going to put about 1/3 of this into our mix. You don't have to measure that at all, just dump some of it in. And Let's mix that. Start real slow. I hope this cake turns out good. It sure sounds good. I have a hard time finding cakes that, the recipes that they're not dry. And with this having the oil in it, I think it won't be dry. Okay, then I'm going to add half of this buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use whole milk with a little vinegar mixed in, like a teaspoon per cup. And then you will have sour milk, which will also work just like buttermilk. I'm messing things up here. I'm trying to get this to work. There we go. Alright, behave yourself here, phone. Okay, so then we're going to do, ow, I just pinched myself. We're going to do another third of the flour. Does say, you just guess. Turn it on slowly again. So when you do this, you want to start and end with dry. So you do dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. So the wet gets done in 2 parts and the dry gets done in 3. So that's the second wet. Here's a dry. Here's the second wet. So it's the rest of the buttermilk. Boy, it's a pretty creamy batter, I'll tell you that. Okay, then here's the rest of the flour mixture. Start off slowly again. We're going to mix it well here at the end. Okay, doesn't that look good? Man, that is a beautiful cake batter. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in the square pan since I'm doing half. It's basically like a 1-layer dish. Okay, so here's my dish. Clear glass. You can use a round one. You can use a square one. Use whatever you want here. And I'm going to, it says to grease it, so I'm going to spray. I'm going to spray it. I'm not actually going to take it out of the pan. We're going to eat it out of the pan. You know, you don't always have to remove them from the pan. But I'm still going to spray it with oil so it doesn't stick. You can also, of course, do the, butter it or oil it and then put the flour on. It doesn't say put flour though. It just says oil it. So that's what I'm going to do. There's that. Now we're going to put that batter in there. Take my bowl down here. Take my beater out. But creaming that butter and sugar and oil for so long, boy, that made that light and fluffy. Oh, that spray always makes me cough. That Pam always makes me cough. I don't especially like the idea of it, but it's so convenient. The spray oil. It's probably terrible for you. But it sure is fast and easy. Figure, well, there's not that much there. If you would rather butter it. But then butter, you have to be careful. Butter can burn. You don't really want it to burn the cake. Okay, so I'm getting all of the batter off of the beater here. And then off my hand. Okay, so I'm going to pour that in and scrape it in. I hope you're having a good night tonight. Look how yummy. It's a really light looking batter. I am real curious to know if it's going to be dry. I hope not. I don't like dry cakes. I hope it's going to have enough moisture in it that it'll be a nice moist cake. If it's not, we're going to have to go to an all-oil recipe. But I saw Paula Deen one time do a combination of both butter and oil batter, and she said the butter kept it real tasty and not real greasy, and the oil kept it moist. So this is not specifically her recipe, but it's one I found that I want to try. So then we're going to spread it, and you're going to bake it at 325. So this is a little slower than normal. 325 for, I think it said 35 to 40 minutes. Let me see. 35 to 40 minutes, yes. And then, of course, you know, till it's done. And we'll check it at the earliest time. And the full recipe, of course, makes a 9 by 13. Or you could, I suppose, do layers. That is a light feeling batter. Looks like it's got some good potential. All right, so I've got my oven already heated, so I'm going to put this in. And if you take your batter and knock it on the counter a little bit, if it has bubbles, air bubbles in it, that can knock them out. So then you don't get big bubbles in your cake, big air pockets. That didn't seem to have too much, though. All right, so let's set this for 35 minutes. And then we're going to go on to my next recipe. Okay, this is another thing I have never made. Let's turn it that way so you can see. It's called marinated cucumbers. So it's basically cucumbers with a vinaigrette on them. So, but you marinate them overnight, so they're going to really absorb it. To me, it's kind of like, sounds like it's going to be like a refrigerator pickle or something, but not quite that pickly. So let me give it that recipe. I've got that one written down. Okay, so the original recipe for this calls for 6 cucumbers. It would make this huge amount. Okay, again, it's me and Mom. Mom and I are not going to eat 6 cucumbers. I don't know how long this lasts. So I'm going to make 1 cucumber. 1 cucumber. We're going to see if this is any good. And I like to use the English cucumbers I washed it, so it's over here in my sink. I love these cucumbers. Do you know that these produce less gas than a regular cucumber? The regular seeded cucumbers, they're gassier. These are not. So you don't have to peel these either. They're so good. I love these like English cucumbers. So you can get organic ones like this too. So I'm going to use this. It's kind of a gigantic. This is really more the equivalent of 2 cucumbers, I think, because it's a gigantic cucumber. So then I'm going to slice this. Now, what does it say? It doesn't, thinly sliced. Okay, that's what it says. Thinly sliced. So you can slice them however you want, I suppose. I sharpen my knife. Now it's going everywhere too. Now let's see. Where am I going to, oh, I'm going to put this in here. I want to put it in something to mix it though. Well, let's use this bowl. Let's use this bowl I have here. I just had flour in it, so let's dust out the flour. And we will put these cucumbers, we'll put them in that bowl. They're pretty cucumbers too. This is a pretty one. It's so nice and springy looking. But I wanted something, since I'm doing an Italian dish tomorrow, I like something cool and clean on your tongue. You know, that cucumbers kind of clean your palate. So when you have don't you feel that way when you have something Italian? Especially if it has garlic, afterwards you kind of want to clean your palate. You want to clean your breath. You want to clean. So cucumbers will do that. So, and since it is deathly hot here right now, our heat index earlier today I noticed was 101, meaning it was 80 something, but it felt like 101. It did. Well, I was inside though. But it's been hot here like that. So I wanted something cool for the summer, and I didn't want to just make salad because sometimes I get tired of salad. So I'm like, what else can I do? So I started hunting online for a cool something that would go good with an Italian meal and summer. And I found this recipe for marinated cucumbers, and I'm like, oh yeah. Haven't had them before, and this is a thing that I can taste it after I'm done, but you really need to have this set. It says you've got to put it in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours. I'm going to do overnight. Because, it won't absorb the flavors until it's been 4 hours. So I'll be able to get a little idea of what it tastes like, but it won't really have its full flavor until tomorrow, or till 4 hours. I can taste it later tonight. Okay, so there is our bowl of cucumbers, and then it says to add a quarter of an onion. Now, if you don't like onion, just don't put onion. I'm not that crazy about raw onion, but Mom loves onion, so I'm going to put it in there. Plus, I think once it absorbs this vinaigrette, I don't know that it's going to taste that oniony. If it does, I just won't eat the onion pieces. So let's try it. It says a quarter of an onion. This is a piece of a Vidalia onion that I had left. This might be a little too much, but just put what you want in it, or like I said, leave it out. So it says you're going to slice the onion. So let's slice this, and I'm going to cut it in like quarters. So they're like little arches, you know, the little onion moons. Okay, little onion moon. There you go. You know, about bite size, kind of bite size stuff. So like I said, if you don't like onion at all, leave it out. If you don't like it much, you know, just put a little bit in. I'm curious as to what it's going to taste like after it's absorbed this dressing. So I might like it then. I might not. I don't know. I might just do that much onion. But Mom loves onion and she will be thrilled. I don't know that this is going to help your garlic breath much though. This onion. I'm probably going to leave it like that. I don't know. Let's try a little bit more. Let's do another slice. I just don't want too much onion. Let's do a little bit more. I think that's more than a quarter of an onion I have there. I think that's more like a third of an onion, so I don't want to do the whole thing. Otherwise, I'm going to have onion salad. Okay, let's mix that up and see what we got. All right, I think that's good right there. So I'm going to save all this for something else. Put it back in my bag, put it in the refrigerator. Okay, so there we have our cucumbers and onion. Let me wash the onion off my hands. Then we're going to make the vinaigrette dressing. And I'm going to just try making a little bit of it since, let's see, what am I making? Quarter. I'm making a quarter of the whole recipe. Okay, so I'm going to do a quarter of a cup. And it says, let's see, in a jar with a tight-fitting lid, combine the remaining ingredients, cover, and shake well. Okay, that's for something else. So, I love mason jars for mixing dressing. This one has a bit of a label left on it, so just ignore that. But it is clean. So, I'm going to take this mason jar. Let me move this cutting board. And we're going to mix up our ingredients. So, it says a quarter cup. This is a quarter of the recipe. So let's give you the full recipe. The full recipe is a cup of white vinegar. So I have my white vinegar here. So I'm going to put that in. I'm just putting it all straight in the jar. There's no need to dirty up another dish. If you would rather have a different vinegar, I'm sure you can do that. Then we're going to have 4 teaspoons, or the full thing is between a quarter of a cup and a third a cup of sugar. So it's going to be a nice sweet vinaigrette. I just want to get the vinegar off of there. Okay, here's my sugar. I went ahead and measured my sugar, so I'm going to put my sugar in there. Okay, so then we're going to have a quarter cup of olive oil. I don't really like olive oil, so I use light tasting, extra light tasting. And of course I'm doing a quarter of this recipe. So there's olive oil. Then you're going to have a teaspoon of salt. I do like to make smaller amounts like this when I make something for the first time, because that way if I hate it, I don't have a ton of it. Okay, so what did I say? A teaspoon of salt. Strain it to get out the rice that I keep in there so it doesn't get damp. Then you're going to have a teaspoon. Now, this calls for a teaspoon of dried oregano and a half a teaspoon of marjoram. So, but what I'm going to do is I have this Italian seasoning. It has marjoram and oregano already in it, and it also has thyme, rosemary, sage, and basil. So I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to use both measurements for the oregano and the marjoram. So it's a teaspoon and a half of Italian seasoning. I think that will work fine. Using my quarter measurements here. Okay, so then now it also asks for garlic powder. I don't usually like to use straight garlic powder. It's so strong, but it also calls for lemon pepper. Now I don't have any lemon pepper, but I do have garlic pepper. So to me, this covers both the garlic and the pepper. It just doesn't have lemon. If you want lemon pepper, get the lemon pepper. You could put a squeeze of lemon in there too. Okay, so I'm going to use then, that's going to be a teaspoon of garlic pepper that I'm adding. I love this garlic pepper. It's so good. Okay, there's that. Then we're going to have, and I hunted high and low for this. It took me forever to find it. A half a teaspoon of ground mustard. It was almost, it would have been a snake. It would have bit me, but I could not find it. I did finally find it. My ground mustard. Okay. I'm like, how can I have everything else except the lemon pepper? I don't really care about that. So let's put in half a teaspoon of ground mustard. Then we have all our stuff in there. So then we're going to put our little mason jar lid on. This is what's most handy about mason jars. And you shake it. Look, instant dressing, instant vinaigrette. Cover and shake well. Pour over the cucumbers, toss to coat, cover and refrigerate it at least 4 hours. Serve with a slotted spoon. I think it's funny it tells you to serve with a slotted spoon. Okay, so once we get it all mixed, we're going to pour this over the cucumbers and onions. Here we go. Look, it's just, it's an herb vinaigrette. Ooh, look at that with those herbs on there. Don't they look good? I hope this is going to be good. I think once it sits the 4 hours, it will be. Let's see, what time is it? It's about 8 o'clock. Okay, so about midnight. These are going to be good about midnight. I'm going to come back at midnight and taste it. Well, tomorrow. I will taste it tomorrow. Okay. Then I'm going to keep it in a container for travel because I got to take it to Mom's house. So I'm going to put it in a little thing with a lid. But first, I'm going to stir. And I am going to taste one of these because I want to see what it tastes like. Even though it hasn't absorbed the flavor yet. Oh, it's going to be good. I do believe that's going to be good. Okay. So I'm going to put it all in here. We're going to hope and pray that it's good tomorrow. Put it on the lid. Put it in the refrigerator. I'm making an awful lot of dishes. Awful lot of dishes for this. Making a lot of mess. Okay, put all my dishes collect over there. Let me show you something I got. My boss at work. Look at that. Oh, do you know what that is? Ah. Look at there. If you're from here, you should know what that is. Those are mangoes. And those are not just mangoes. Those are Tommy Atkins mangoes. If you've never had Tommy Atkins mangoes, they're my favorite. There's a lot of good ones, but I love Tommy Atkins mangoes. Hello, Jody. And those are Tommy Atkins mangoes. My boss has a tree in her yard, and they're just beautiful this year. Look at this. And she hasn't had the squirrels or anything get to them. They're not ripe yet. But, oh, I love mangoes. Oh, they're so good. And it is mango season right now. But Tommy Atkins are real creamy tasting, and they are not, and they're this big, long one like this, and they a lot of times have the red and the purple and stuff on them. These don't have a whole lot of purple, but as they turn yellower as they ripe. But when they are ripe, I'm going to eat them. But they're not ready yet. They're not soft yet. But it's a mango season right now. You only get mangoes you only get good mangoes during mango season. Okay, so let's see how much time I have left. I still have 22 minutes left on the cake. I'm going to take a peek in the oven here. I want to see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like batter. It's only been 8 minutes. Okay, so other thing I have to make is the icing for the cake. Well, I'm not going to be able to put it onto that cake. It's cool though. So here, I want to show you the icing. Look at that icing. Maybe I'll come back and make the icing on live. Look at that. Oh, this is a chocolate ganache icing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go since I'm done with this, and you know, there's nothing else to do right now except wait for the cake to bake and then cool. And so, like I said, maybe I'll come back and do the chocolate icing with you and show you what it looks like. And then I will do my main entree will be tomorrow morning. So here, let me flip this around. Come on, phone. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go. May you all have a very good evening. Until later, I'll probably come back and do the icing if you want to see the icing and see the cake. And I don't know, I'll probably have to take a taste test, make sure it's not poison. And so until then, you have a good night. Bye. Oh, hi, Heather. Oh, so you love mangoes. Yes. Mangoes. Bye. You want to? You want a taste test? Well, come on over. You can have a taste test.